Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into, well, a world that seems to rewrite its rules almost daily. Artificial intelligence.
It really does feel that way, doesn't it? The pace is just incredible.
Exactly. And in this super fast-moving landscape, there's one company, Scale AI, that seems to be, consistently right there at the forefront.
Definitely. They keep popping up.
Yeah, you've probably heard the latest buzz, Alexander Wang, Scale AI's CEO. He's now leading Meta's new AI superintelligence lab.
Right, which came right after Meta's huge, what was it, $14 million investment?
$13 billion, yeah.
Yeah.
Valuing Scale at something like $29 billion. Just staggering numbers.
Absolutely staggering.
So our mission today is really to unpack this whole journey for you. How did a company that started with, believe it or not, a chatbot idea, how did they not just survive, but continually adapt and lead in what has to be the fastest moving industry ever? What can you learn from their story about foresight, strategy, maybe relentless adaptation?
It's a really fascinating case study. You look at their foresight, the strategic pivots. I think what we can learn is just how crucial it is to spot those early market signals
Right.
and having the courage to pivot, like really pivot, even if your first idea seems okay.
Because the first idea often isn't the best idea,
Yep.
especially in a brand new market.
Exactly. And Scale AI, when you look at them, it's not just a successful company story. It's almost like a mirror reflecting the entire AI industry's evolution.
From Y Combinator.
Yeah, from those early YC days to now being pivotal in training these huge foundational models and really shaping, the future of AI and the future of work.
Okay, let's unpack it then. Alexander Wang's path wasn't exactly typical. Even before MIT, like back in 2014, 2015, he was at Quora.
Right.
And he noticed something interesting. The machine learning engineers were already getting paid more than regular software engineers. What did that signal, do you think, so early on?
Well, that's a pretty sharp observation for someone, that young. It showed he was already spotting where the value was shifting in tech. But his AI exposure actually went deeper and even earlier. At just 16, he was going to these summer camps in San Francisco.
Summer camps.
Yeah, run by the Rationality community. And that's where he bumped into people who became huge names in AI. Like Paul Cristiano, the inventor of RHF, reinforcement learning from human feedback.
Oh, wow. Crucial stuff for aligning AI.
Totally. And he's now research director at the U.S. AI Safety Institute. Even Greg Brockman, Eliezer Yudkowsky, they give talks there.
So he's 16, hearing from these pioneers.
And it basically instilled this idea in him that AI and AI safety specifically might be the most important work he could do in his lifetime.
That's intense for a teenager.
Yeah.
So this unique background, before he's even really adult, must have set him apart.
I think so, yeah.
Then he goes to MIT at 18, dives deep into AI, but apparently gets antsy. Applies to Y Combinator.
Yeah, restless, I guess. Wanted to build something.
But that first idea wasn't. Was the one that stuck, right? What was it, and why didn't it quite work out?
You're right. That early exposure was definitely key. As for YC, yeah, this was 2016. And it was right in the middle of this sort of mini chatbot boom.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Magic, Facebook pushing chatbots.
Exactly. So their first idea was building chatbots for doctors.
Okay. Seems reasonable.
Yeah, but Wang himself reflected on it later, said it was kind of a classic young founder's dilemma.
Meaning
Meaning the ideas are often mimetic, following the trend. Young founders sometimes lack that unique alpha, that special insight into what they're uniquely positioned to do. They just follow the hype sometimes.
So they're in this chatbot bubble. They're even rooming with another YC company doing chatbots.
Right.
And it becomes obvious pretty fast if you want these things to actually work well.
You need data.
Loads of it. And not just data, but like human elbow grease.
Right.
To make them function properly.
That's the key insight, that realization. So the idea came up almost off the cuff, he said. What if we just provided the data, the human effort for all these chatbot companies?
The pivot.
Exactly. They grabbed the domain scaleep.com, slapped up a landing page in like 3 days.
Wow.
Launched on Product Hunt maybe a week later. And the tagline was, Genius, an API for human labor.
An API for human labor. That's catchy.
It really captured people's imagination back then. It was this, weird form of futurism, humans doing work for the machines, kind of flipped the usual script.
Okay, so that Product Hunt launch gets them noticed, gives them a mix of early use cases, enough buzz to raise some initial funding.
Yep, got the ball rolling.
But then, just a few months later, another big decision.
Yeah.
Focus almost entirely on self-driving cars.
Yeah, a major shift.
That seems like a huge leap, right? From this
Yeah.
broad API for human labor to something super specific like autonomous vehicles. Why that niche?
It was definitely a strategic leap, but, it made a lot of sense if you looked at the market then. Amazon's Mechanical Turk existed for similar tasks.
Very M-Turk.
But anyone who'd actually used it knew it was, well, Wang said, just awful.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Clunky interface.
Totally. Scale offered a much better API, better user experience. They could basically grab a whole new market segment that M-Turk wasn't serving well. And then I think a YC alum working at Cruise found them.
Oh, interesting connection.
And Cruise became their biggest customer almost overnight. It just showed that sometimes focusing on a really specific, underserved niche with a clearly better product, that's the fastest way to get traction, even if the niche looks small at first.
But not everyone saw it that way. Wang mentioned a conversation with their lead investor, who apparently thought self-driving was obviously way too small market for a truly gigantic business.
Huh.
But Wang didn't budge.
No, he held his ground. His argument was basically, look at the crazy amounts of funding pouring into self-driving. Look at the long-term vision. It's clearly going to happen.
So he saw a bigger future there than the investor did.
Exactly. He believed it was a much bigger opportunity than it seemed on the surface. And what's really interesting looking back is that both of them were kind of right.
How so?
Well, focusing on self-driving, it absolutely allowed Scale to build fast, get traction, prove their model. But it ultimately wasn't a big enough market on its own to fuel that gigantic, massive growth they were aiming for long term.
But we required another evolution.
It did. The lesson there, I think, is sometimes you need to win that first battle, the focus niche, to even get to fight the bigger war. Focus gets you started, but foresight means knowing when to evolve beyond it.
Okay, so Scale AI's journey is really mapping onto the bigger AI story. Like, with self-driving, scaling laws weren't the main focus.
Right, because the compute was constrained, had to be on the car.
But that changed when they started working with OpenAI.
Precisely. That partnership started back in 2019, GPT-2 era.
And GPT-2 was interesting, but not world-changing yet.
Yeah, more of a curiosity, Wang called it. Researchers would show it off, but it wasn't like blowing anyone's mind. But then came GPT-3 in 2020. And that's when the whole idea of scaling laws, performance shooting up dramatically with more data, more compute, bigger models that became very real to them at scale.
Long before the rest of us really got it.
Way before. Wang told this story about a friend interacting with GPT-3 and getting genuinely, visibly frustrated and angry at it.
Angry, not just amused.
No, angry in a somewhat personal way. Like, it wasn't just a dumb toy. He saw semblances of it passing the Turing test. For them, that was the aha moment, a real glimpse of what was coming.
Wow. So they saw that potential with GPT-3 way before the public did. What was it about that experience that made it so clear?
I think it was seeing that unpredictable leap in capability just from scaling up. It wasn't just incremental improvement anymore.
Right, and while GPT-3 was this huge internal realization for them, it was really DALL-E in 2022.
That was the public wow moment, yeah, the image generation thing.
Followed by InstructGPT, the ChatGPT precursor, and then GPT-4.
Exactly. And that's when Scale really started being called the NVIDIA for data.
The NVIDIA for data. I like that.
Because GPT-4 basically confirmed this astronomically large opportunity. The need for data wasn't just growing, it was going to grow to consume all available information.
So data becomes the bottleneck, the key resource, just like chips.
Pretty much. It positions companies dealing with data infrastructure as just as critical as the chip makers. And what's more, if you look at recent improvements, it's not just about the initial pre-training data anymore.
What is it then?
It's more about reasoning and reinforcement learning. And those techniques are turning out to be shockingly effective.
Shockingly effective.
Yeah. It suggests there's maybe a new scaling curve emerging, kind of like Moore's Law, but for model improvement through these methods, which implies, well, maybe every company's real IP in the future is its own specialized model.
Trained on its own unique data and environment.
Exactly. Differentiated by data specific to their business problems.
That definitely sets the stage for a whole new era of work, doesn't it?
It really does.
And Scale AI seems pretty optimistic about it. Techno-optimistic, you could say. They see work fundamentally changing, but humans keeping agency, keeping choice.
Right, not just being replaced.
Coding seems like a great example they use for how this transformation happens. What's that progression look like?
Yeah, coding is a perfect case study. Think about it. Phase 1, models are just assistants. autocomplete, maybe generating small snippets.
Okay, like Copilot early days.
Exactly. Then you move to cursor agent mode. That's like true pair programming with a single AI agent, a very efficient collaborator.
Made sense.
But the current paradigm, where things are heading now, is more like a swarm of agents.
Hate swarm.
Yeah, different agents tackling different parts of a coding task, and the human is, well, managing them.
Managing the swarm.
And that job, managing agents, it actually has a name in the workforce already, manager.
Right. So AI pushes humans up the value chain into management roles.
That's the optimistic view. It's not just taking tasks, it's evolving the nature of the roles themselves.
So that AGI doomer view the idea that eventually agents will even take over the management jobs. Wang doesn't really buy that.
Doesn't seem like it. He argues that human vision, complex management, the debugging, putting out unexpected fires, that stuff remains crucial.
So what are the uniquely human things over time then?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? But yeah, management in its true sense, setting vision, handling novelty, dealing with the messy real world, that seems key. We see it self-driving too.
How so?
Well, getting a car to drive correctly 90% of the time, relatively easy now. But that last 10%, the crazy edge cases,
No, the really tricky stuff.
that still needs significant human intervention. You hear about companies needing like one human teleoperator for every 5 cars just for those difficult moments.
Okay, so humans stay in the loop for the complex, high-stakes stuff.
Exactly. It suggests humans remain vital, especially where the real-world consequences are serious. It's about figuring out what AI can't do well, at least for the foreseeable future.
That's still a pretty optimistic take on the future of work, though. It is. Think about the Uber driver example. Today, one driver, one car. In this future, maybe one human manages 5 autonomous cars. Huge productivity boost.
Right. And this optimistic view, the one with low unemployment, it kind of relies on this idea of insatiable human desire and demand. Meaning, as AI makes things cheaper and more efficient, we won't just sit back, we'll just want more. We'll find new things to desire, new problems to solve, filling up the economic bucket. It's a pattern we've seen throughout history, right? Efficiency gains lead to new demands.
And this connects back to programming, doesn't it? The historical leverage programmers had.
Yes, exactly. Programming was always kind of like alchemy, write code once, replicate it infinitely at almost zero cost. Huge leverage.
Right.
Wang's argument is that AI is about to give the entire human workforce a similar kind of leverage boost, maybe just as large, making almost all trades shockingly productive.
So whatever you do, AI could make your unique skills way more scalable, multiply your impact.
That's the idea. Amplify rather than just replace. It's a powerful way to think about it.
Yeah, it is. Which brings us back to Scale AI itself and how they keep reinventing. Their original business, the data production, it forced them to build ahead of the waves of AI, didn't it?
It absolutely did, intrinsically. For AI to work in any new area, it needed data first. So Scale's customers, their demand, often showed up before AI had fully matured in those industries.
So they had to anticipate.
They had no choice. It's like the parallel Wang draws with Jensen Huang at NVIDIA.
Right, you mentioned that.
Jensen's always way ahead because he has to be. He has to build the hardware before the software trend even fully materializes.
Scale had to do the same for data.
Exactly. They were working with OpenAI on language models way back in 2019, working with the DoD on government AI in 2020, engaging with big enterprises long before those companies had fully baked AI strategies. This need to build ahead has been core to their survival and success.
That's a huge lesson for anyone in a fast-moving market. Don't just react. Position yourself to enable the next wave.
Couldn't agree more.
So Scale wasn't just riding waves. They were building the surfboards. And this led to another big shift, right? Late 2021, early 2022, they start building actual AI applications.
Yeah, applications and agentic workflows for enterprise and government clients, that was a major pivot from just being the highly operational data foundry.
How did they approach that kind of diversification? Did they look at how other companies managed big shifts?
They did. Wang specifically mentioned studying Amazon and how they built AWS.
Ah, the classic example.
And the takeaway was kind of twofold. First, you need deep conviction in an infinitely large and growing market like exponential compute growth was for AWS.
And find the infinite market.
And second, understand the cost advantages that come from economies of scale. So
Right.
Scale applied that. They identified their infinite market as every business and every organization was just going to have to reformat their entire businesses using AI and agents.
That's a pretty big market call.
It is. But the insight for you listening is that real diversification isn't just tacking on new products. It's about identifying and building into one of those fundamental, almost inexhaustible market needs.
And they aren't trying to boil the ocean either. Their strategy is focused, right? Select top-tier customers.
Very focused. The number one pharma company, number one telco, top bank, top healthcare provider, key parts of the U.S. government, DoD.
A strategic, high-end focus.
Yeah, this multi-hundred-million-dollar application business they've built is fueled by their differentiation in data. The core belief is that true enterprise AI advantage comes from unique strategic data.
Okay, so focusing on data for big organizations. How does that make them different from, say, Palantir? People might see overlap there.
That's a fair question. Both are tech providers, both focus on data, both work with large organizations. But the key difference, Wang points out, is in the type of data problem they solve.
Go on.
Palantir is really strong on tackling messy data integration, making sense of all the existing disparate data an organization already has, building those ontologies. Okay, wrangling the current mess.
Right. Scale, on the other hand, is more focused on generating the strategic data needed for AI differentiation, creating the new data required to train cutting-edge models in these agentic systems.
Generating the future data versus organizing the past data.
That's a good way to put it. And the market is just so greenfield, as Wang says, that they often end up partnering rather than competing head-to-head. It's just too big right now for winner-take-all.
What's the real bottleneck then, if not competition?
According to Wang, talent. Great, technical, smart people who are optimistic and actually work really hard. That's the scarce resource.
Interesting.
And his argument is that agents are going to explode that bottleneck by giving those smart people near infinite leverage.
More leverage again. So for businesses listening, the takeaway is maybe that creating and curating unique data is the new competitive frontier, not just collecting it.
I think that's exactly right.
It's clear scale isn't just selling AI, they're using it heavily themselves. Wang mentioned leveraging agents internally. How does that work day to day? Yeah, they're definitely eating their own dog food, so to speak. They realize the insane efficacy of reinforcement learning, partly from building the data sets for agents.
So they saw how well it worked.
And started applying it internally. They've embedded agent workflows all over the company.
Like where?
In hiring, for example, quality control processes, automating data analysis, sales reporting. The basic idea is find a repetitive human workflow, turn the steps into a data set, and build an automation tool, often an agent, to handle it.
Can you give a concrete example?
Sure. He mentioned distilling a candidate's entire application packet, resume, interviews, everything, into a concise brief for the hiring committee.
Okay, that sounds useful but complex.
It is. It's what he calls a deep research plus task. You have to click around, pull information from different places, blend it, analyze it. That's perfect for an agent.
And they find RL helps more than just prompting.
Yeah, prompting gets you so far, but reinforcement learning seems to take the models beyond that level for these kinds of sophisticated automation tasks.
And pushing the boundaries externally, Scale built this thing called Humanity's Last Exam. What is that?
Right. They built it with the Center for AI Safety. It's a really unique evaluation benchmark.
How so?
It's basically a collection of the hardest scientific problems sourced from top researchers. Problems that have never been published before, requiring deep expertise and genuine reasoning, not just pattern matching or recall.
So you can't just Google the answers.
Exactly. They're stupidly hard, designed to test true problem solving.
And how are the models doing?
Progress has been incredibly fast. When it launched not long ago, the best models were scoring maybe 7-8%.
Okay, pretty low.
Now, they're over 20% in just a matter of months.
Wow, that's rapid improvement on genuinely hard problems.
It really highlights the pace. Of course, eventually benchmarks get saturated, right?
Yeah.
So the next step will be evaluations based on complex real-world tasks.
This connects to what Sam Altman has been saying, right? About expecting new scientific breakthroughs from AI soon.
Yeah. Altman predicted breakthroughs from AI reasoning in the next, 12-24 months. Wang finds that super plausible.
Especially in certain fields.
Especially fields like biology, chemistry. I think AlphaFold winning a Nobel Prize level impact. AI might have fundamental advantages there because it's potentially a different form of intelligence.
A different way of thinking, basically.
Could be. It paints this picture of a future where AIs are doing the frontier R&D and human scientists are busy trying to understand the discoveries the AIs make.
That's a wild thought. An exciting time, as he says.
Definitely an exciting time to see how human knowledge expands.
Okay, that's the exciting, maybe slightly terrifying future. Let's ground it a bit in today's geopolitical reality. Wang mentioned something kind of awkward, that the best open source models in the world now come out of China.
Yeah, that's a significant point.
How does he explain that rapid acceleration from China in open source?
His explanation is pretty stark, actually. He suspects secrets are getting out.
Secrets, like IP theft.
Not necessarily formal IP, but the tacit knowledge. The little tricks, the intuitions about hyperparameters, the stuff that isn't written down. He thinks that knowledge is leaving the frontier labs in the US and finding its way to Chinese labs.
That's a strong claim.
Yeah.
How does that factor into the overall US versus China AI race?
Well, you look at the strengths and weaknesses. The US is clearly strong on chips, right? NVIDIA, et cetera.
Yeah.
China, though, has huge advantages in data. They can often ignore copyright or privacy concerns that slow things down elsewhere. They have massive government data labeling programs, even these robotics data collection factories.
Robotics data factories.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, U.S. companies developing robotics foundation models are apparently relying heavily on Chinese data sources for that.
Okay, so China leads on data. What else?
Hardware manufacturing, they can build things like embodied robots much, much cheaper than in the U.S.
Right. And on the flip side, a major U.S. weakness Wang flagged is energy.
Energy production, yeah. He described the U.S. grid growth as flat as a pancake compared to China, which has doubled its grid capacity in the last decade.
Wow. Mostly coal, though.
Largely coal-fueled, yes. But the point he makes is the bottleneck for the U.S. is pure regulation.
Okay, so chips for the U.S., data and manufacturing for China. What about algorithms?
The U.S. is probably still more innovative there, but
Yeah.
if his espionage hypothesis is right, if that tacit knowledge keeps leaking,
It kind of levels the playing field on algorithm?
it potentially evens it out, yeah.
All right.
So his overall assessment, he gives the U.S. maybe a 60-40, 70-30 advantage.
Still an advantage, but
But he clearly sees a lot of worlds where China just catches up or potentially even overtakes. It's not a guaranteed U.S. lead.
and this race has huge implications for, well, for warfare.
Absolutely. He sees the nature of warfare shifting dramatically,
Awesome.
moving away from the Cold War model of just bigger bombs towards what he calls micro-war.
Micro-war.
Drones, embodied robots, cyber attacks, smaller, more numerous, more tritable assets. It's about fragmentation, agility.
And AI is central to that.
Totally. Which leads to the next step. Agentic warfare or agentic defense.
Meaning AI making decisions.
Pretty much. He points out that current military decision-making is remarkably manual, based on limited information.
Right.
AI agents could, in theory, provide perfect information and enable immediate decision-making, which creates, well, incomprehensibly fast-moving scenarios.
That sounds intense. And Scale AI is involved in this space.
Deeply involved. They built the Thunderforge system with the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. It's a flagship DoD program.
What does Thunderforge do?
It uses AI for military planning and operations. Specifically, it takes existing human military doctrine and converts it into agent-driven workflows.
With the goal being speed.
Exactly. To slash critical decision cycles from, say, 72 hours down to just 10 minutes.
72 hours to 10 minutes.
Think about playing chess against a human with pauses for thought versus playing an AI that moves instantly, relentlessly. And you can see the AI's chain of thought immediately. It's a game changer for planning.
And it reinforces that point about AI capabilities, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No matter how secret, they eventually open over time.
Right. This stuff isn't staying secret forever. The rapid evolution is happening across the board, commercial, scientific, and geopolitical.
So, given all this,
Yeah.
this insane pace, the high stakes, the constant change, what does it actually take to lead a company like Scale AI through it all? Wang seems to boil it down to something surprisingly simple.
Yeah, his core philosophy seems to be you just have to really, really, really care.
Care, that's it.
Well, he expanded on it in an old blog post he wrote titled, Hire People Who Give a Shit.
Okay, tell me more.
He draws this sharp distinction between people who just phone it in, do the job, versus those for whom the work is incredibly monumental and forceful and important.
People who are deeply invested.
Exactly. People for whom it genuinely eats at them when they don't do great work, and who get profound satisfaction when they do. That magnitude of care, he says, is what he looks for.
And he lives it too, right? Still reviews every single hire.
Apparently so. Which is pretty remarkable for a company of that size and valuation. It shows a deep personal investment.
And his argument is that this intense level of care isn't just nice to have, it's functional.
Totally functional. He says it allows them to feel much more deeply what happens in the business, which means they can react faster, change quicker, learn faster, take things more seriously, adapt more rapidly. It makes the whole organization more agile.
And this idea that quality is fractal.
Yeah, another core company value, meaning high standards have to start at the top and permeate everything. If management doesn't truly care deeply, that lack of care trickles down, and you lose that drive from employees.
So maintaining that founder mode, that deep personal care,
Hmm.
is critical for quality and evolution.
That's the argument. And for anyone listening, I think the insight is that passion, that genuine engagement. It's not just a soft skill, it's actually a fundamental driver of adaptability and achieving excellence, especially when things are moving incredibly fast.
What an incredible journey we've just traced. Scale AI, Alexander Wang,
Yeah.
from an MIT dropout who got this super early exposure to AI safety ideas.
Yeah, all the way back at those summer camps.
To now leading a company that seems to constantly reinvent itself, staying right at the cutting edge of AI's biggest transformations. It really is a testament to vision, adaptation, and, like Wang says, just caring a lot.
It truly is. His story really highlights how crucial it is to anticipate where tech is going, understand those market dynamics deeply, and then foster that intense commitment within your team. Those seem to be the key ingredients for navigating and even leading in this accelerating world.
And it's fascinating how the company's own evolution just perfectly mirrors the evolution of the AI industry itself.
It really does track step for step in many ways.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. As AI keeps redefining work, knowledge, maybe even warfare, what new forms of human care and human vision will be the most critical ones for us to cultivate, both in our jobs and just in our lives, to navigate this future that seems to be accelerating faster every day?